Hey everybody, welcome to the Freedom Stories podcast. We are in season 2 and I am so excited with today's episode. If you've never been with us before, this podcast, we take time to sit down with different folks who are walking with Jesus and find out a number of questions, but really ultimately we want to get after their freedom story. And today I'm so excited to let you guys into the story of my brother Timothy Wynn. Bishop Timothy Wynn. He's a dynamic man of God, somebody I've had the pleasure of getting to know over the past few years. And I'm just excited that you guys are going to get to know him a little bit here. So I want to say hello to everybody, Bishop.
Hey, everybody. It is an exciting time to be alive, but I'm even more excited right now in this moment to be here with you and just see how God unfolds these next couple of minutes for us. So, yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, we're excited to have you, bro. And I know I really want to get into the deep stuff. So let's just dive in. I don't need to do too much small talk. So let's get into it, brother. Tell us in your own words, what would be your freedom story? You're walking towards freedom.
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And there's so many different directions that I could go with that because I feel like my particular freedom story is still being told or unfolding, if you will. I think freedom, of course, whom the sun sets free is free indeed, right? But I think that that's something that's progressive, and not something that just comes to us like in a miraculous nanosecond or
Right.
a moment. So, but I will say that my journey of freedom has been one through many different obstacles. One being a son that was sexually abused, being coming through a single parent home, then escaping the streets and sex, violence, drugs, and all kinds of things that easily beset so many brothers, especially that come from where I come from.
Whereabouts was that?
Yonkers, New York. I normally claim New York City as a whole because I have bounced around New York City quite a bit, but Yonkers, I think I would claim Yonkers as being where I'm from. That's where I did a lot of my late elementary, middle school, high school. So those were some real formative years for me. And yeah, it was just surviving Yonkers, New York alone is a freedom story. I mean, breaking through some of the things that many of my friends didn't survive. I mean, I've had friends that, have been shot point blank, standing right next to me, and by the grace of God, I made it out for whatever reason. Not that, not that I know, and that is, and that I'm even trying to understand it, but I do understand that I made it out, and that making it out was for ultimately a greater purpose. I believe, at least, but. In any event, so freedom for me has been that, surviving that, and then surviving adulthood, which is, filled with its own challenges, and, a lot of things have challenged me in my adulthood. Some things that, we all deal with, but maybe some a little bit more than others. And these challenges come nonstop. But my freedom story really is one of finding Jesus, because he is the beginning and the end, right? the author and the finisher, right? So everything that's happening in my life on this journey to freedom is particularly just in between. It's the chapters in between. But I know the end of the story, and uh, Jesus came into my life at a very, very critical point in my life. In fact, there's a scripture that says that um, at the appointed time, God saw fit. I'm using my own words to step in and save us. And I always look at that scripture, uh, and I'm flawed. I'm floored at this reality that you know it was at the appointed time, at the time that I gave my life to Jesus. It was no other time. It was the appointed time, because if it wasn't the appointed time, then maybe I wouldn't be saved, or maybe I wouldn't be alive, because really and truly it was that much of a dark place, dark season of my life. And I could have easily took my own life in that season. But God saw fit to introduce me to Jesus through a friend that is still a great friend today. And I don't know that he was so much a friend back then. He was more so a coworker, but he became a great friend.
Yeah.
And I really needed some breakthrough in my life. I mean, some direction. I needed to make sense out of all the chaos. And Jesus was uh, the only thing, the only one, the only way
Yeah.
that I really found that helped me to get at least to a place where I could talk about being free
Amen. Where freedom could even be in the conversation.
in a conversation, right?
If you don't mind, not that you need to go into deep detail, what is a little bit of that chaos that you were dealing with? Because I know that there's so much that we could go into that maybe we don't really have a time or space or the appropriate place for. But I know some of that may be places where people may be able to connect and say, "Oh, yeah, me too. I was there too."
Yeah. So some of the chaos.
I mean, I know
You,
you kind of you touched on it overarching, but like in that moment, like in the season right before, like was there a specific darkness that you were like, I don't know, like that place where you were close to ending it? For me, real quick,
yeah.
for me, like when I gave my life to the Lord, I was at the place where like I felt like, dang, there's literally no way out of this. But it was like I saw there's nothing else left. I'd made all my mistakes that led me to that place, and
Mhm.
I was like, okay, you know what? Before I do something real crazy, like what else is there? And then the Lord stepped in. So I don't know what version of that was for
Yeah.
you there.
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of the chaos for me was self-inflicted, I guess. Right before I gave my life to the Lord. But um, some of those things were, when you come up in a dynamic or dysfunctional family, as I did, um, you know, it's not just about surviving it. It's not just about uh, okay, you live through it, but it's also about being able to continuously live through the manifestations that come later on in life. And so, what I mean by that is this: I grew up in a very chaotic home, domestic violence, drugs, uh, abuse on all different kinds of levels, um, and that creates this environment that's conducive for chaos to thrive in. So when I got older, and later on in life, and even to this day, I have this natural bend for creating chaotic environments.
Mm, right.
You know what I mean? Because that's what's normal to me. So
Mm,
when everything seems like chaotic to you or to someone else, it's just no. This is how I thrive. This is where I live. And so, leading up to when I gave my life to the Lord. I just was recreating chaos,
Mm.
recreating chaos through my own drug addiction that I had at the time, through my own ignorance or rebellion and fear. You know, I was self-soothing. I was partying a lot,
Mhm.
drinking a lot, uh, and really just finding ways to self-soothe. And even at the time, I remember my life was just so dark. It was, you know, I was 20 something. Yeah, 20 something when I gave my life to the Lord. Um, and, you know, after, 20 something, but after surviving my first suicide attempt was at 18 or 17.
Mm.
So from 17, I gotta imagine maybe early teens, 13, 14 years old, I completely hated life. But all the chaos that was before me created this real dark space within me, um, that basically just screamed, I don't want to live anymore. I don't want to be a part of this world, because this world is screwed up, man. This world is really, really messed up. And so um that just led to more chaos after more chaos after more chaos. The very thing that you say you don't want is the thing that you get.
Right.
It almost reminds me of, Paul said something very similar, like the things I don't want to do, I do.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
it's it's almost like the damsel in distress. You uh what you really want, you create the opposite.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so that was true for me, and I just created a lot of chaos through my partying, through my drugging and bugging, through my ventures with women. um and I had to learn that it was all just me trying to put band-aids
Mm.
on some deep wounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, the freedom,
Here it
the
comes.
freedom,
Here it
the
comes.
freedom is not the freedom is not from the devices.
Mm.
It's not The freedom is not from, if you hear me, if you walk with me, it's not from the women, it's not from the drugs, it's not from the behavior, if you will. The freedom is actually from the core, from the root of those things, which is um, 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 abandonment.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Those deeper wounds.
Those deeper wounds,
Yeah.
right? That can only be healed or filled by God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
without without God, without Jesus, right? Um, um, you will never ever have those wounds filled or healed, and therefore you will never ever really find freedom, right? I mean, that's what true freedom is, to say, look, I've been abandoned by my dad, I've been abandoned by my mom, and uh, uh, and those are the two most important relationships to me, or to any individual, the parent to child, two most important relationships in the world, in the life of any human being. So when you alter, or you abandon that child is going to have issues for the rest of its life in some fashion or form with abandonment, if they don't come into this knowledge of Jesus Christ, and that he's the one who can stand in the gap of that, or fill that void, right? It's
Yeah.
that it's
The
that
good
so
father.
yeah, it's yeah, he is the good father, right? He transcends everything that we can imagine, or whether we can, or whatever we could think,
Yeah.
right? um And he steps in and he says, look, I'm a right this wrong.
Hmm.
The thing that you lack the most, I'm going to step in. If it's a father, I'm going to be your father. If it's a mother, I'm going to be your mother. Um, and
Yeah.
outside of God, right? Outside of God, um, how could I personally ever even be sitting here
Yeah.
talking to you at this moment, right? Because there's a there's a lot of things that have bound me up.
Mm.
I mean, there's a lot of things, and I got a lot of good reasons why I should still be bound.
Right. Right.
But what God has offered me um, through His Son Jesus is freedom, and I'm going to continue to seek freedom out. I know it's not a one off or a one particular event where you just get free. Yeah, the day you give your life to Jesus, yeah, you just freed yourself legally.
Mm.
You know
But
what I
I
mean?
look, I look, I totally get what you're saying. I look at it as a spectrum that we're
Right.
all somewhere on this spectrum between total enslavement and total freedom. And the total freedom, I don't believe we ever truly attain until we're in heaven, right?
Right.
Like we're somewhere on this progressive journey towards more and more freedom. That's
That's
what
right.
Paul even says, like, don't let yourselves be yoked again by
Right.
or burdened again by a yoke of slavery. So like he
Right.
understands, yeah, you were set free, but you
Right.
still experience more and more
Right.
bondage. So,
Right. Yeah, that's so good. He definitely he reminds them. I mean, you think about and from church to church in the letter in the epistles, he's reminding them like, hey, remember what you've been set free from, what you've been delivered from, and continue to move that way. Don't
right.
go that way. You know what I mean? That's the way you came from. This is the way you're going. You know what I mean? Like, keep going in that direction. And yeah, man, so freedom is it's progressive, right? It certainly has to be progressive, but you know
And
um
so I'm sorry, I made you go back, but you were early sharing on the moment when your coworker, who then became friend, was introducing you to the Lord. Walk us through maybe a little bit of that interaction, and your response, and then maybe what life began to look like in opposition to the chaos thereafter.
yeah, yeah. So the particular way that it went was I was sick, and I was sick from self-inflicted wounds. I was doing drugs, and I was getting over that, and had some health issues regarding that, and but I still had to go to work, and uh, my car had got impounded. When you talk about being set up by God, right? My car got impounded, and I had no money to get it out, but I also had rent to pay. So it wasn't just about, all right, let them keep the car. It was about, hey, no, um, if I let them keep the car, how am I going to get to work? Because, I need to pay this rent. And the only solution was a coworker of mine who happened to hear me telling, my manager at the place we were working what the deal was. I don't have a car and I gotta, figure this out. And he kind of interjected and just said, "Hey, I'll give you a ride. I live right down the street from you.
Hmm.
Um, and I'll pick you up and I'll bring you, and I'll drop you off." And I was like, okay, cool. That works. And every day I got into this man's car, uh, there was some Christian gospel Jesus music playing,
Yeah.
and and I remember getting in this man's car and I would just say, "Oh Lord," I wouldn't. I probably didn't say "Oh Lord," but
Right.
but, but you get it. you know um And then this one day where I get out the hospital, because I already missed 2 or 3 days of work, and I was in the hospital and they wanted to keep me even more. And I signed myself out because I'm like, no, I got to go to work. I got to get this money, man, so we can survive. I had a kid, you know, and I signed myself out. I go home, I go to sleep, I wake up, he's downstairs waiting for me. I'm crawling out the bed in so much pain and so much agony, and that I'm literally just bawling because every movement is hurting me. But I fight my way down the stairs into his car. I open the door and I kind of fall into his car, and I'm trying to hold back these tears because he's a grown man, I'm a grown man, and we don't want none of that going on. But nonetheless, he looked over at me, and the only thing that I could say to him is brother, I can't take it no more. I can't take it no more. That was the cry that came out of my mouth to him. And he said to me, he said, brother, you need Jesus.
Come on.
And the irony of that is that through all the gospel Christian music that he was playing leading up to that, he never really pushed Jesus on me. He never said that to me, you need Jesus. That was just his music. And and I find that very interesting, especially in as it relates to leading other people to the Lord and introducing Jesus to people. God knows that the appointed time he'll make a way, like he did that day in the car, where my friend said, you need Jesus. And I said, hey, if Jesus can take away all of this pain, all of this agony that I'm in, then give me Jesus. And I took Jesus that day. That night I went to a church that he actually led me to. And from there, I gave my life to the Lord, and life immediately after that was still chaotic.
Sure.
It was still chaotic. Don't get me wrong. In fact, it might have gotten worse. But there was something different about me in the chaos.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I had a peace about myself, and I was able to navigate the chaos, but still without really or getting really sucked into it, fully. It was supernatural. It was almost like something or someone was protecting me from going down these roads that I've traveled down many and many of times, like relapsing or going back to using drugs that was hurting me. Like, this drug thing is hurting you physically, it's hurting your health. But addiction is addiction. You still go back to it. But now I was at this place where it was right there in front of my face, and I was just like, nah, I don't want it. And it wasn't, don't get me wrong, it wasn't one of those Christian things where they say, okay, you're Christian, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that. I was ignorant to all that.
Right.
I didn't
know all the things to be.
I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know what you should do, what you shouldn't do. All I know is that the desire went away from me.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And I was able to walk away from, drugs, cold turkey, man. Some people's story, is different, and I get that, but I used drugs in a very major way for a few years, maybe 2 or 3 years. And after 2 or 3 years, man, I met the Lord, and he just radically took it away from me. And I'm not hyping it up. I'm just saying one day I woke up, after giving my life to the Lord, and I don't even remember how soon was it after I gave my life to the Lord. All I do remember is one day I woke up and I'm just like, I don't feel like doing this.
Wow. Wow.
And I didn't do it, and I haven't to this day. I've been sober, and a lot of time I don't get to tell this story because usually I'm telling it to a bunch of or in the past I've told it to a bunch of addicts, and um addicts, you know uh tend to struggle with drugs like in a lifelong type of way. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Like it's always going to be something in the backdrop that they're just
right,
not trying to manage.
right,
Yeah.
right. And for me, it just went away,
Right.
and I mean, and the only thing I can say is, God is good, and maybe I found ministry as an alternative, because I've come into ministry. I don't feel like I found ministry. I feel like ministry found me, because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really, I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about anything. I just was this guy that was in pain, that was trying to get off drugs and trying to get his life together. And all of a sudden it signed up for Jesus. And then I had people telling me 8 months later that that I'm called to be a pastor or a minister, or whatever. And I had no clue. I had
Yeah.
no clue. I
Was that those people? Was that part of that same church that you found
Yep,
the Lord in, or did you?
yep,
Okay, so in
yep,
that church now you got people that are like seeing an anointing on your life and like
yeah,
calling it out.
yep, yep.
Wow.
It was the same. I mean, 8 months I was there. I got saved. Gave my life to the Lord. 8 months later, they came to me. They said, um, the pastor came to me and he said, I want you to be a deacon in this church. I said, whatever. What is that? You know
Right.
what I mean? But at the time I was just like, hey, whatever you want me to do. I really felt like, for the first time, I felt like, man, I'm really digging something. I'm really digging this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was something wholesome about it, and so I was like, hey, whatever you want me to do, I'll do. And people come in, they were calling me, I was a deacon, then I was rev, then I was and this is long before my ministry tenure. I mean, so when I say ministry found me, it really found me. I didn't go looking for it. I didn't know to look for it.
Right. You
you
wouldn't
know
even know what it was to look
I
for at
didn't
that
know. Right,
point.
right. And the funny thing is, how I really got on a formal track of ministry is that same church that I got saved in, and that people were calling out this calling on my life. uh I had I had ran into some disagreements
Okay.
with some of the ways that they were handling some finances or something.
Mhm.
And for that, I felt like, well, I need to really consider taking my family and going to another place.
Mhm.
And so at the time, I wasn't really ready to make that move, but I was what you would call dibbling and dabbling, where it's like, all right, I'm a find this place. We're gonna sneak over to it, and then we're gonna come back. We're
Yeah.
gonna we're gonna assess what we thought about it, whatever, and before we ever make any formal transitions.
Sure. Sure.
So that's what I did. And the place that I found, it actually was a ministry institute that was offering a class on deliverance.
Mm.
And specifically, I don't remember exactly what the teachings were, but all I know is that it appealed to me, and I'm like, man, this be cool to go and learn about some deliverance. And at that time, I'm just hungry. Whatever this is,
I'll take it all. What you got?
I'll take it all. Whatever you got. I land in this class, and this class is actually a formal minister's training class. So it's like an on ramp to be a licensed minister of the gospel. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm not a pastor. I'm not going to be a pastor. That's not who I believe God has, created me to be. This is me at the time. I just, I don't like people. You know what I mean? Like, but whatever. I'll go through. If you want to say I'm on a path to be a licensed minister, that's fine. I just need these classes. That's what I need for my own, personal development and so forth. And that's one thing led to the next, man. I graduated that and landed in seminary the next year, and man, the rest is history. And then I started a couple of small groups that turned into churches. Then I started some churches that led to more churches being started, and now we have a ministry institute where we have a few things going on, cohort, and we're starting a credentialing track where we're going to ordain some ministers in the next year and a half. So it's exciting. It's exciting to see all that God is using me for.
Amen.
In comparison to the things that we were just talking about, like, my story of getting free. And, like, I literally felt like, man, the day I gave my life to the Lord, I really felt like, man, the devil was like literally trying to kill me that day. I was going to die. I mean, I was going to die no matter what. I can't even believe I'm sitting here telling this story like right now. And like, it's kind of crazy. It feels a little bit surreal, right? Because I can remember the pain. And the truth is that all that pain hasn't really gone away. I would be lying if I said that all the pain has gone away, because it hasn't. And I think we're intended to carry some of the pain, at least on this side of eternity, right? Because, the Bible is clear. Eschatologically, it says that God is going to dry every eye, wipe every tear, dry every eye. There will be no more crying and sorrow and grief, and there will be no more of that in the age to come. Right. I may not experience that on this side of eternity, but I know that it's still a promise for me. It's still something that God has promised for all the pain to go away. It's going to go away. I mean, sometimes, because catch this. I think this is really, really important, and it might help somebody. I think, when we find Jesus, right, I think we come and there's a lot of misconceptions. Like, as
soon as I find Jesus, all my problems are going to be solved.
Yeah. Like he's some lamp and a genie. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like Jesus, I'm gonna give you 3 wishes. Or whatever. But yeah, it's like you think that, and no, in all reality, it's like your problems just got worse, buddy. You know what I mean?
Now you've got a big target on your back.
Absolutely. Now, because when we were living for the world, or we were living for Satan, Satan didn't have, he didn't have no bone to pick with us. He like, You know, he look at us, he give us the, you know,
High five. Keep doing what you're doing.
keep on doing what you're doing, you know. Um, but when you start living for Jesus, then you get his attention.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And especially when you talk about uh um wanting to do something for him, not just live for him and be a child of God, but now I want to extend the kingdom of God, and I want to start some micro churches. I want to plant some churches. I want to help some people get ordained and released into the gospel ministry, man. I'm telling you, like, you know, that puts the spotlight on you for Satan,
Yeah.
you know, and it gets really, really difficult continuing to search out what real freedom is when you got uh, some of those things that Satan is using to tug back at you. And some of those things that he uses, that he uses to tug back at you, is actually uh, unique to you.
Right. Oh yeah. He knows. He knows. He knows. He knows enough to know exactly the buttons to push and try to pull you back and mess.
Right.
I remember. I don't know if I've ever even shared this story publicly. So connected to some of the stuff that you were saying, my struggle with drugs wasn't. I mean, it was a psychological addiction to marijuana, and it was just my coping mechanism. That was where I went. That was my peace before Jesus. And I remember after I got saved, it was in the summer, and the guy who got me into smoking weed all the time, was somebody who I was relatively close with, and even before I was smoking weed with him. And so I remember, I was trying to close the door on all of those relationships, and I was like, no, like I need to move into a whole new circle. And then shortly thereafter, like I'm talking like in a matter of weeks, I felt like, but I want to reach these people, these friends of mine. They're like, I don't want to just like leave them behind. So I was like trying to walk this line, and it was too soon for me because I remember I went down to celebrate his birthday. This was like maybe a month after I got saved, and that was a bad idea. It was he and I, and just in his apartment in the city in Chicago, on the north side. And he's like, "Hey, you want to smoke?" And I was like, "Nope, nope, not doing that, doing it." And I felt good. I was like, "I'm strong. Nope, I'm not gonna do it. Not gonna do it." And then he goes, "Well, I got these pot brownies. You can have one of these." And he's like, "It's not smoking." And no joke, I'm sitting here. Here's what's going on in my head. Well, I never had pot brownies before. And I was always curious, and it's not smoking. Like I'm already making the justifications for why this would work, and da 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 da.
Right.
And like, and I knew it right after I did it that was literally the enemy knowing just what it would take to get me to like
Right.
twist my commitment there, and
Right.
then that was the last time I'd ever gotten high, was after that, because I felt immediately afterwards like, yep. So you just took the bait. So I
Yeah.
get it. I get that the enemy knows
He
the
knows.
ways to uniquely get at us.
Yeah, absolutely. All day long, all day long. And he, you know, there's this saying, you know, he don't, he don't change his tricks. You
Hmm.
know, same old trick, same old. You know, I mean, he looks at us and he throws us. You know, he knows us in ways that I don't know that we think about often.
Right.
You know, I mean, we know that we're known by God, but how much do we hear that we're also known by the devil?
And like when you put that reality that you just said in
Yeah.
the context of like the devil is prowling around like a roaring lion,
We're
or he's
like,
like he's just like just waiting for you to
yep,
to step into the spot where he can do this or
yep,
to take this bait. And like, yeah,
yep,
that it,
yep,
it it's a sobering thought
right,
to be thinking about how much he actually is aware of you.
Right.
That's
Right. And yeah, it really is sobering. It
mhm,
really is a very sobering thought because, um, I just this thought just came to my mind. Satan, he's been defeated, obviously, right? That's the obvious truth. But he is the prince of the air. You know, the Bible says he's the most cunning. And I just really feel like if he's been defeated for all eternity, and he has, how is it that he just gets to wreak so much havoc
mm,
amongst the people of God? And this thought just came to my mind, um, that he can't, the way he wreaks havoc on the people of God is by the people of God raising havoc on the people of God.
mm,
You
mm.
know what I mean? In other words, what I'm saying is, um, he know like we were just saying, he knows us. So a lot of the time that he gets us, we put ourselves in position for him to, for like like um let's say like you were just saying, using drugs, right? So um God doesn't take your free will or your free choice away from you, right? And so if you want to continue to use drugs, you can continue to use drugs. Now Satan is only, there like a cheerleader. You know what I mean? He's not giving you the drugs.
Right,
He's not, and Satan's not taking your choice away from you either.
right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you
Making
think
the
about,
choice.
you're making the choice. You know what I mean? And I mean, think about this. We're talking about duality, right? Good and evil, God and Satan, right? If
Mhm,
God is not taking away your choice, Satan's not taking away your choice either. And by you choosing to, let's say, put the drugs down and leave the drugs alone, that's taking a step towards God. And then his word says that he's going to take 100 towards you, right?
right.
Um, it's the same thing with Satan, right? You you
Yeah.
say, "Nah, I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm gonna do the drugs," and you take a step towards Satan. He take 100
He's
back
like, all right,
towards
come on,
you.
let's go.
Right,
Yeah, yeah.
right. And so, I mean, just in this kind of some final thoughts that I was just thinking about. In that same vein, freedom is a choice.
Mm,
It's a choice. It's a choice. Think about what we were just saying. It's a choice to either walk to the left. I mean, if you're talking about the spectrum, right? Go to the left or go to the right. You get to choose. God is not going to take that away from you. Satan's not going to take. It's you. It's on you. What are you gonna do, or what are you gonna choose, right?
mhm.
In the direction in which you're gonna go. And it's from that place that I feel like freedom. Like if it's freedom that I choose, then it's freedom that I'll get.
Mhm, mhm.
It's just not always gonna come in a manner and in the time that I may want it to.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But like, because I'm thinking about even getting this opportunity to share my story today. It's like, you know I found some freedom in this.
Mm, good. Yeah.
I found some more freedom in this. It's like these little bite-sized chunks of freedom that the Lord just gives us on this journey. But this journey starts with me or you or whomever saying, man, I'm choosing freedom.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I'm choosing to be free. And you know what? Being free it comes with a price, man.
Mm, mm.
It comes with a price. You know what I mean? I mean, those shackles, those shackles hurt, man. They leave some wounds. You know what I mean? Some wounds on your hands when you got them on. I mean, pulling on chains. I mean, you know, freedom comes at a price, man. No doubt about it. But before we could ever be free, we have to choose to be free.
Amen. Amen. We
You
have to
know,
choose every day to continue to walk in it, to
walk in it. That's
walk
right.
in that
That's
freedom.
right. That's right.
Good stuff, brother. Hey, so we didn't spend too much time as we look to kind of ramp down here. We didn't spend too much time talking about the current ministry that you're doing right now. So you are you calling it the lead pastor of Harvest Community? I know it's so is it Harvest Community Church? You know, look, I'm not going to try to say it. You tell me a little bit about the Plan for
Structure.
Harvest Community and Harvest Community Church and that
Yeah.
stuff, and let everybody know
Yeah.
what God's doing through you there.
Yeah. So I'll give you kind of just the structure of it, if you will. Back in 2016, we started uh, uh, a ministry called Plant for Harvest, and the intention or the purpose of Plant for Harvest at that time was to start more churches, to be a church planting organization that was black founded and black led. Um, and so we did that, and we've kind of evolved. Not kind of, we have evolved since 2016, and our focus now is more so on making key investments in specific leaders uh, that's going to lead to community transformation. So, what that really looks like, where the rubber meets the road, is we are an organization that's always on the move, looking for uh, new leaders to train, equip, new, you know, emerging, existing. If you're not a leader, we'll make you one. I mean, that's just you know. So we believe that anybody and everybody has the ability to lead at least two or three people. If you can't lead two or three people, then you got a problem, because or at least you better not have no kids. You know what I mean?
Because that's 2 or 3 right there.
Yeah, you know. So any emerging, any existing, any person that really wants to make a difference in their community somehow, some way, then Plant for Harvest wants to invest in them. And we do that through a few different offerings. We have a cohort, Erin and her leadership cohort. We have a credentialing track that we're launching in June, which that's for the sake of ordination. We also have a trauma track that we are launching in June, which that will be geared towards starting. We're going to start trauma centers, and maybe we'll start a trauma center right in your neighborhood. I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
I'm curious
But
about that. Actually, ministering to the mentally ill and those who are just struggling with mental health in general is
yeah,
one of those places that I definitely feeling called into. Not that that's the center of trauma, but I mean, trauma often leads.
listen, listen. You know, you're hitting it right on the head, because um, so the trauma center that we're going to start, they're called Real Love pods, and they really are centers for people that have struggled with complex trauma and addictions. Now, now, in relation to what you just said, there's no one that has suffered from complex trauma and addictions that don't struggle with mental illness.
Facts, facts.
You,
Yep.
you know what I mean? So
Yep.
you could have mental illness without the other, but you can't have the other without mental
Yeah,
illness.
yeah. There's some impact on your mental health with
Some,
that impact.
yeah, there's gonna be some. Yeah, I mean, because trauma, that's what it is. It's an effect on the brain and your mental health, and and we have a lot of people I mean, if you start me talking about trauma, we'll have to go another hour. But we have so many people that have grown up in environments like mine and like yours that deal with complex trauma that don't know how to navigate life. And so, Plant for Harvest, our next wave of church planting, we've been able to in the past plant somewhere north of 50 plus churches. Uh, but our heartbeat now is, can we get to 50 plus trauma centers? Now these trauma centers will be faith based, and they will have be led by pastors or faith leaders.
Right.
But I want to give you this idea. um, I struggle with mental illness, which is obvious from my complex trauma. Um, the thought came to me, I've been hurt and damaged emotionally in a very traumatizing or traumatic way, right? A way that is going to affect me for the rest of my life. Now, how do I, as a believer in Jesus Christ, go through the sanctification process, which is becoming more and more like Jesus, when I've been so abused, so traumatized in such a way that those particular experiences have cut off all of my senses and ability to naturally mature in a rate that other people may mature in.
Right.
You know, so in other words, I stay immature.
Yeah.
How could I ever become a mature disciple?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, if we as the church, as we as ministry leaders, if we don't start thinking about more of our population, you know, if we don't start coming up with innovative ways to reach more people, and the only way, and I'm not talking about new cameras and new, I'm not talking about innovation in the technology fashion, but I'm talking about innovation and how do we reach more people? It's like, like Freedom Stories and the Unshackled Network, right? It's this whole idea of, look, the traditional model church is great and we don't have any qualms with it, maybe one or two, but we don't have we don't have any qualms with it. But what we are saying is, it is not equipped nor ready to reach people like Tim Wynn, that have suffered from complex trauma, had some addiction history, and because of all that, it's kind of rough around the edges.
Right.
Now, how do we reach guys like him? With the love of the gospel, with the love of Jesus Christ found in the gospel of Jesus Christ, this all-inclusive message. I mean, like, we have to, without a shadow of a doubt, we have to come up with ways to reach our communities, to transform our communities. In fact, there's this one scripture that comes to my mind. It says that Jesus is going to return for a bride that has made herself ready, without spot or for a bride without spot or without blemish, and she has made herself ready. In other words, the church, what we know as being believers, we're gonna get ready. God is like, we're gonna figure this thing out, man. We're gonna figure this thing out, and we're gonna figure out ways. And the only way that we could figure out is if we start new things. Like, hey, we're gonna put emphasis on focusing on complex trauma and addiction, and we're gonna put a steeple on top of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we're just gonna say, hey, this is the new day and age church, man, reaching new day and age people.
Yeah.
And
this is so timely for me. I was just at a conference this weekend, and in the midst of that conference, so the story that I was sharing at this conference was a short story about a man in one of our micro churches who has suffered his life after experiencing significant trauma, abuse, sexual, physical, suffered from multiple personality disorders, and now is medicated, and he's a part of one of our gatherings. But it's like, how does the traditional church reach him, and like
Yeah.
how does that work for him? And then as I'm in the middle of prepping that talk, I've got a guy who's in my micro church who is in the hospital, and like in the mental ward, um, battling with his medication and needs for treatment for schizophrenia. And it's
Mm.
like, so it's definitely there. Like, and I think the questions that I'm asking now, because I don't know, like, I don't know how. Like, the question I'm asking is like, how how do we truly reach those who are suffering in various degrees, with mental health? And I think in the same way that freedom is a spectrum, I think, our mental health is a spectrum. People, there aren't individuals with perfect mental health, right? No.
Right. 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 It doesn't exist
Right. And nobody's like completely broken, like so we're
right
all somewhere in this
in the
place.
spectrum. Right.
Right. And like, so how do we help people move to a place where it's, manageable, and they're able to actually function and use their capacities in a way that, for me, first and foremost, that they can receive and understand the message of this good God who loves them and is
Yeah.
inviting them in a relationship. And like, if that's not the work of the church, I don't know what is.
Right. 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 And you're hitting it right on the head, brother. That's why that's why we feel so good. I feel so good about this next wave of church planting, if you will, for us, which is these trauma centers, because I would tell you that's the answer to your question. It's
Yeah.
these trauma centers. I mean, how could we ever get people to where we want them to go without them first dealing with the things that is keeping them from going where we want them to go?
Yeah. Yeah.
Simply. I mean, that's what it is. But self-awareness.
Yeah.
If we can, and we could talk a whole lot more about this offline, because now you got me into.
That was one thing I was gonna say, because I think I want to really connect around this. The Lord, like, he threw it on me this past week. Like, yeah, this is just so you know, Armand. Like, so
Yeah.
I didn't share this in this conversation. I too have my own history with mental illness and
Yeah.
depression and all that. So maybe that's another reason why the Lord has brought us
Us
together.
together. Yeah. Yeah.
So and I believe that's also one of the reasons why the Lord's, thrusting me into these relationships and the ministry towards those that are struggling with that, because like I get it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's not, there's no stigma for me with that. Like, I
Right.
understand this is life.
Right. Right.
Let's
Right.
definitely do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's definitely, because I got some irons in the fire, and looking at new cities. It's crazy, because I said, man, I'm gonna start a trauma center in Chicago, and now we're talking about having this conversation, and the only thing that popped in my mind was that,
Right.
like, we start this trauma center in Chicago. But let me tell you something. I've probably done that 50 plus times already. Like people have asked me, like, man, how have you started or been at the helm of starting so many churches?
Right.
And um I think the one thing that I could say to that regard is that, I see things that be not as though they were.
Mhm.
God has given me a grace to take a blank canvas and just have my way with it, and then it happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I really do think these trauma centers, these real love pods, I mean, that's what we're calling them, real love pods. Oh man, because you know, um, we don't want the stigma of the church, even though this is going to be led by a pastor. We don't want any stigmas to keep a person from coming into this love pod. And when they come into this love pod, that's exactly what we want them to feel. Like, this is real love in here, man. We really, really care about you. We really love you. And because we really love you, we're going to walk with you on this journey of healing and recovery, and hey, yeah, we got a couple of Bible studies going on down the hall, but don't even pay attention to that. Don't even worry about that. There's some healing groups for you. There's some healing seminars. There's some tools there. What do you need? I mean, what can we do to help you in your natural state? Like, we always want to work on this spiritual, man. Listen, I get that.
Right.
I get that. You know what I mean? But like, we want to help you in your natural state, because if I could help you in your natural state, it's going to pay dividends when we start talking about your spiritual state, right? So yeah, let's talk more about that, man. I'd love to kind of engage you in that, and
we'll definitely do that, brother. It's happening. That's the Lord's all over that. You guys, I want to let you know also, in regards to some of the ministry that he's talking about. The Unshackled Network has been blessed to be a strategic partner now with Plant for Harvest, and we are one of those ministries that they are investing into this year, and it's been a blessing to us. And I was blessed to be a part of the Aaron. I just happened to, bro. I didn't even plan this. I just happened to have the certificate here. I didn't even know what I'm gonna do with it.
Yeah.
So show it off. I was blessed to be a part of the Aaron and her cohort, and such an amazing year-long experience. And that's part of the reason why we're even having this conversation here, because I knew that there was so much in your life and your story that I knew could bless people, and I've just gotten to see it up close and personal, and I'm just so grateful that you were able to come on today. And I don't know what all you had to sacrifice to be here, but whatever it was, I appreciate it, because I know your time is busy, and we've held you long enough.
Yeah, man. I think I had pancakes on my mind. No. No, it's been great, man.
I owe you, and then, as usual, if you need anything, let me know, brother. And hey, before I let you go, though, what is the website where they can reach Plant for Harvest and find out more about the stuff you guys are doing?
Yeah, it's Plant for Harvest, www.plant, PLANT, the number 4, harvest, HARVEST.com. Plant, the number 4, harvest.com. That's where you can find us. And then I think we're on Facebook at Plant for Harvest, IG Plant for Harvest. If you land on the webpage, it'll lead you to everywhere else. I'm so far removed from the inner workings of that stuff.
And again, you guys, I will put the link in the description, both on the YouTube as well as in the podcast description if you're listening. So
yeah, and my email as well. Put my email there if you're interested in ministry in any kind of capacity. I mean, I just, if it's appropriate, I'd love to have the conversation with you.
That sounds dope. I'll definitely add that as well. And those of you guys who are listening on the podcast, whether you're on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever, we appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. You can rate and review. And those watching on the YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe so you catch the next episode. And having said all of that, thanks again, Bishop Timothy Wynn, for the time to stay. And we'll catch y'all on the next episode.
Yep. Thank you, brother.